nuclear facilities and missile silos, along with the interception of more than 100 attack drones launched against us by Iran. Before any drones were even launched against Israel airspace, they were all destroyed. Clearly tell you that God is at work here and on whose side he's on. So basically, it's not just, okay, there was some fighting, sure. Israel has an army that's very, very powerful, very skilled. They have Mossad, who's amazing. Everybody knows how great they are. With all these things, you need Hashem's to make sure that whatever you do is successful, especially these things. And what basically happened here, no one even realized what kind of danger we're in. That Iran was at a point where they say that, and they prove it, that they were ready, almost at a point where they can have, within a short period of time, nine bombs, talk about nuclear power, which could, God forbid, do who knows what. I don't want to bring it out of my mouth. And their goal was to produce, these are like atom bombs. We know what they can do. And like Netanyahu said, when your enemies tell you they want to annihilate all the Jews, you can believe them that they want to do that, and so on and so forth. So we have to take it seriously, but it was at a point where it was really almost at the point where it's being developed. It's like we reached them they waited and waited until they got to that point. In fact, yesterday, 2 days ago, was the first time in 20 years that even the United Nations that has a division that's in charge of overseeing what different countries do regarding nuclear weapons, that they don't develop it. Even they came out and said Iran is definitely 100% developing it at a very rapid pace. And they have promised their goal is to, God forbid, annihilate the whole country. That's their goal. What happened yesterday with Eretz Yisrael, the miracles, I'm just going to read to you highlights of what kind of miracle this was and how they describe it. I'm not going to read every word here, but just the points that bring out what was going on. What happened was that it started in the middle of the night, 3:00 in the morning. And again, this is Hashem, that he arranged that the top military people and the top scientists, all of them should gather in one place. And in a place where they thought that they were safe, and Israel eliminated that. Israel eliminated all their other things that I'm just going to read the words, how they write it here. First of all, Israel made an announcement that the scenario of the words of Iran, God forbid, predicting thousands of casualties in Israel is no longer on the table. They don't have the potential to do that anymore. In the past few hours, the military airport in Tabriz was destroyed. The missile production plant in Shiraz was destroyed. Attacks were renewed on uranium enrichment sites in Natanz, and thousands and thousands of these, what do they call them, centrifuges, these are the things which they produce it, were destroyed. And this is all without Israel attacking any civilian infrastructure, no civilians. The Mossad revealed astonishing footage that they had agents inside Iran. They set up precision strike systems aimed at neutralizing Iran's advanced air defense system. So they basically knocked out all their defenses. Nothing could block. After all the UAVs launched at Israel, 100 UAVs were launched at Israel as a retaliation. All of them were destroyed before they even got to Israel. In fact, there's no longer a need to remain in protected areas in Eretz Yisrael, because before they said everyone should be very close to the shelter. During the night and early morning, ballistic missile launchers were destroyed, along with dozens of air defense systems, battery radars, fire control centers, command posts belonging to Iran's air defense array. All was neutralized. With Hashem's clear miracles, every single one of the pilots have returned safely from all the attacks. the air battles and the destruction of Iran's air defense systems. Security sources say Iran planned a major first strike in response, which would be a combination of surface-to-surface missiles, UAVs, but Israel destroyed all those, so they couldn't do anything. And that's why there were no sirens even in Israel. And this is what's going on. And we're in the middle of it. Basically, in the words of the Israeli government, is that their success was more than whatever they expected. Clearly, this is a miracle. And also, a very interesting thing is that Netanyahu decided to name this project, this operation, Am Kilavi. It's a pasuk in Chumash, but it happens to be part of the prophecy of Bilam about Moshiach, that this nation will rise like a lion. So they called the operation Rising Like a Lion. That's what they called it, based on that pasuk in Chumash. Also, today's Chitas, Friday, when the attack occurred, it starts off with the words that we say every day, not every day, but we say in davening when we take the Torah out. We say the prayer, Vayhi and Seya Arim, when they carry the ark. Moshe said, Kum Hashem, rise, let all your enemies be dispersed, let them all be running away from you, because Torah will come from Zion, and so on and so forth. That's today's Chitas of Friday, the first pasuk. So, like this Friedman says, if you haven't believed in miracles until now, and again, these are people who believe and know and will credit and applaud the Israeli army and all their amazing things that they are. But with all that, they still see miraculous things happening. Because in all these operations, something goes wrong someplace, somewhere. It's never like perfect. I remember when there was a story called Entebbe. Everybody knows what that's all about? Entebbe? No, okay. Entebbe was a story that happened many years ago. We lived through it, where they hijacked an Israeli plane and they took it to a place called a place in Africa. And what?
It was Ghana. Yeah. I think it was Ghana.
No, it was called Entebbe. That's the name of the place.
Oh no, I was saying I think Entebbe is in Ghana. Right?
Oh, it's in Ghana?
I think so. I could be wrong.
I'm not sure. I know the president was a guy called Idi Amin, who was himself a big dictator, killed people right, left, and center. And they parked the plane in their airport. They let all the people leave except for Jews and Israelis. And they demanded, in those days it was different, they demanded 4 or 5 terrorists that were being held in jail, they're not going to release them until, and it was a miracle of miracles that the Israelis managed to save all the people on the plane, kill the terrorists, and bring them all back to Israel. I mean, it's a big story. They made a movie out of it. But the main point of the story was that they flew a plane into their airport, and they didn't, without them detecting it. They had a car coming in, had an Idi Amin sitting in the car. It was just someone got dressed up like their president. So they thought it's the president coming, or prime minister, whatever he's called. And they just came in there and they just told everybody to go down on the floor, and they shot the terrorists. It was a miracle. Again, it's skill, but it was a miracle. 2 people unfortunately died in that operation. One was the leader of the group, who was actually a brother of Netanyahu. And the other was an elderly woman that didn't realize what she was supposed to do, so she picked up her head, and unfortunately she was a victim. But that was a miracle. A few months later, or maybe a year or 2 later, the United States of America had a problem where Iran took hostages, American hostages, and they tried to do something, and their helicopters crashed. I mean, it's normal in a very, very, very sensitive operation. Something goes wrong. So for so many planes and to fly, come back and forth and do so much, and Baruch Hashem, not only did it work out as expected, but better than expected, because things were in place in a way like they didn't even know it happened that way. These are all miracles from Hashem. And these miracles are the miracles that are helping us realize that we are in a miraculous time and we're getting ready for Moshiach. What I want to do today is finish this list to make sure that we are familiar with all the terms that are related to Moshiach. If there's anything here that we didn't explain yet, so I'll try to do that now. So if you can take out your lists. If anyone doesn't have the list, I have a few extra copies. There's one. Maria, you got the list?
I think I do. I know I do. I just don't know where my list is.
Of course, I'm not going to do everything now, but I'll just be doing those that are that we didn't do yet. We checked off most of it. Okay, so let me go over those that I think we didn't cover yet. Number 26, we didn't cover. Number 26 says Shabbos Chazon. What's Shabbos Chazon? So I have to explain this a little bit. Every Shabbos we read from the Torah, the Parsha. However, after we finish reading the portion of the Torah, we read another thing called Haftorah at the end. What is that? That's a portion from one of the books of the prophets. What's the reason why we do that? There was a time with, you know the reason?
Oh, I think so. It's like because to show like the connection. Usually there's a
connection, right?
Exactly. Between like the Chumash and the Navi.
Right, but why is it necessary? Yeah.
I don't know, but we just learned that we read that.
Like what?
We read it on Kisha.
What I just said, Shabbos Chazon? Close. Shabbos before Tisha B'Av.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Oh, where'd you learn? In which class?
This time.
Okay. So what happened was the Romans made a decree that you're not allowed to read the Torah publicly anymore. So they couldn't read the Torah in the shul. So the rabbis said, okay, if we can't read the Torah, we'll read something from the prophets, and we'll choose something in the prophets that's similar to the story of the Torah, of that parsha. So you always find a similarity between the parsha and the Navi. The fact that they allow that is also strange. If they don't want us to read from the Torah, why should we be able to read from the prophets? Also Torah. That's Hashem's doing. So even though that decree was later canceled, but we kept the custom of continuing to read Haftorah. So the Shabbos before Tisha B'Av, the Haftorah begins with the word Chazon. Chazon in Hebrew in this context means this is a vision. It's a prophecy about the future redemption, but it's always read no matter what the parsha is. This is one. There are a few Shabbosim in the year that we don't go by the parsha, we go by the events of the week. For example, when we read the Torah on Pesach, we don't go by parsha. We read Haftorah that's related to Pesach. When it comes to Rosh Hashanah, we read Haftorah that's connected to Rosh Hashanah. So when it's a Shabbos before Tisha B'Av, we read something that talks about a prophecy about the destruction of the temple. And it begins with these words, Chazon, there's a vision. So there's a famous commentary from Rabbi Yitzchak, and he said the following, that there's a deeper meaning to these words, Shabbos Chazon. And he gave a mashal. It was a father that he made a king, made a beautiful, beautiful royal garment for his child, the prince. But the prince wasn't careful, and he didn't watch it the way he should, and eventually this garment became torn to pieces. So the father says, okay, I'll make you another one. Again, it was a beautiful, beautiful garment, and he wasn't careful, and also got ruined and torn to pieces. So the third time, the king said, I'm going to make you another garment. But I want to tell you, I'm not giving it to you until you learn how to act properly. And then when you learn how to act properly, and I can be sure that you'll be okay, that's when I'll give it to you. So he said the same with the Beis HaMikdash. The first Beis HaMikdash Hashem gave us, we destroyed it with our actions. The second Beis HaMikdash he gave us, we destroyed it with our actions. Then Hashem said, I'm going to build the third Beis HaMikdash. I'm going to build it up here in Shemayim, but I'm not giving it to you. When I see that you've changed, then I'll give it to you. But in order to motivate this boy that he should want to make the change, once a year, the king takes it out of his closet and he shows it to him and said, see this? See how magnificent, how beautiful it is? If you work hard to change, you can get it. Same with us. Once a year, Hashem shows us the third Beis Hamikdash. We don't see it with our physical eyes, but our neshama sees it, and that's on the Shabbos before Tisha B'Av. That's why it's called Shabbos Chazon. Hopefully, this year we won't have to see visions. We'll see the Beis Hamikdash with our eyes. Number 27 and number 28. So again, what's one of the things that comes up? You're not here in school during the summer months, so therefore. Very often, people can go to school 1 year, 2 years, and not be familiar with this. But as we know, and I guess if the teacher told you about it, so she did prepare you a little bit, that in the summer, there are 3 weeks that we mourn the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. From the 17th of Tammuz, a month from today, until the 9th of Av. So in other words, this is a period that began on the 17th of Tammuz. It concluded on the 9th of Av. On the 17th of Tammuz, that's when the Babylonians and the Romans, Babylonians mainly, the Romans was similar to that date. They broke through the walls of Yerushalayim, and then it took 3 weeks till they got to the Beis Hamikdash and burned it down. So the day they broke through those walls, they breached the walls, that's a fast day, 17th of Tammuz. Now, 3 weeks later, when they destroyed the Beis Hamikdash, that's again a fast day, the 9th of Av. So during these weeks, there are a lot of halachas, similar to what we had between Pesach and Shavuos. We don't make weddings, we don't buy new clothes, we don't take haircuts during the act of mourning. The Rebbe initiated a very, very strong campaign that the way to mourn for the Beis Hamikdash is 2 ways. One is this, you die and you cry. Hashem wants to see that we miss the Beis Hamikdash, we really want it. The other thing is not to cry, but to do everything we can that we should merit the third Beis Hamikdash. So these 3 weeks should be a time that we should make every effort, more than any time of the year, to make an effort to get the third Beis Hamikdash, and that's how we show Hashem how much we miss and we want the Beis Hamikdash. God forbid, not in anything in halacha, we still don't take haircuts, and we don't make marriages, and we don't play music, and we do all those things. But it's a different spirit. It's more of a spirit of being proactive, to do something to bring back the third Beis Hamikdash. So what are the things to do? First of all, adding in Torah, adding in tzedakah, that's very effective. But specifically, the Rebbe added another thing. It says in the Medrash, and this did come up in our class. If you remember, I showed you an entire chapter in the book of Chizkiyahu. He was a prophet, that Hashem took him and brought him to Yerushalayim, even though he was in Babel, and he was a vision. He saw the mountain, and he saw the third Beis Hamikdash. And Hashem said to him, take a stick and measure all the measurements, the walls, the doors, and every detail of this. And it's 3 chapters just describing the measurements of everything Beis Hamikdash. Go back to the Jews now and tell them what you saw. Tell them all the measurements. So he said, Hashem, what's the point in telling them all these measurements if they're in Golos, they're suffering, they can't build it anyway right now. And especially, you're suffering, so why are you talking about something that they miss? It'll only make them more aggravated. So Hashem said, tell them, if they will occupy themselves with learning about building the Beis Hamikdash, I will consider it as if they're actually involved with building the Beis Hamikdash. I just have to add, so what do I get from making believe that they're building Beis Hamikdash? Making believe doesn't do anything. And the answer is, it doesn't mean making believe. Obviously, by learning about the Beis Hamikdash and building it down here, in a certain sense, spiritually, we're building it up there. And by building it up there, it'll hasten the time that it'll descend down to this world. Where do we learn about the Beis Hamikdash? So the Rebbe's directive was to learn 3 things. One is to learn that book of Yechezkel where it talks about the building of Beis Hamikdash, those chapters. The second one is number 27, Hilchos Beis Abchir, which means the laws of the Beis Hamikdash. The only book of halacha that gives us the laws of how to build the Beis Hamikdash is Rambam, Maimonides. It's a little bit of a different name than you're used to. It isn't like Hilchos Beis Hamikdash. Beis Abchir is the same thing. Beis Abchir means the house that Hashem chose. Because in certain places in the Torah it says, this is the home that I chose, or this is the place that I chose. Number 28 is Gemara, rather Mishnah. To learn the Mishnah, which is called the Mishnah of Midos. Throughout classes, when you hear the word Midos, if you're studying Chassidus, you're thinking about the spheres, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes. If you learn in Pirkei Avos, you're thinking about character traits. But this is a third definition to Midos. It means measurements. There's a tractate in the Talmud that it discusses only this subject. What are the measurements of the things in the Beis Hamikdash? So when we learn what it says in the written Torah, in Chizkiyahu, when we learn what it says in Mishnah Torah, which is oral Torah, and we're learning what it says in Allah about the Beis Hamikdash, Hashem considers it as if we built the Beis Hamikdash. So specifically, this is something we should occupy ourselves with during the 3 weeks. Now, there's some things here which we already did. Number 39. Anyone realize what that means? Yesruach Hatuma Avi Min Aretz. The translation of that is, I didn't write the translation of all these words. I told you why, because I wanted you to become familiar with the Hebrew terms, with the Torah terms. But it means, Esruach Hatuma, the spirit of impurity, Avir, I will remove, Min Aretz, from the world, from the land. In other words, when Moshiach comes, there will no longer be a Yetzirah. That's the source, this verse. It's a pasuk. Number 40, you might remember we did talk about that. Gog and Magog.
The war, Gog and Magog.
There'll be a war before Mashiach comes between Gog and Magog, and that war will be preceding Mashiach. Remember, we spoke about it, that even a prophecy about something negative doesn't have to be fulfilled, because through tshuva we can avoid it and prevent it. So this is not between Yidden and another nation, it's between 2 nations. One is called Gog, one is called Magog. These are biblical names. So no one really knows who it is today. There are many people who, write, oh, I think it's Germany, and this one says, I think it's Hamas, and this one says, I think it's... Whenever there's a war, everybody right away says, maybe it's this, but we don't know. Number 12. Let's do number 43 first. That should be very familiar to you. V'haya b'yomahu yi Hashem echad v'shmo echad. You know where that comes from? Right, so the davening. It's at the end of Aleinu. And it means on that day, Hashem's name will be one. He will be one, Hashem's name is one. What does that mean? What is he now too?
People will recognize.
Right. If you look in the Aleinu, the translation, what does it say? That all the nations will accept it. There'll no longer be idols, everyone will recognize Hashem. So it means that Hashem will be one and his name will be one, meaning everybody will recognize one God.
That's number 42.
That's number 43. Number 42 is similar. Number 42 is another prophecy where it says, when Mashiach will come, the Avdei Kulam, they will all serve him, Shechem Echad. I didn't bring the whole phrase, but it means all the nations will serve Hashem together with us, shoulder to shoulder, which means we'll all be serving Hashem together. All the nations will be united in peace and we'll be serving Hashem. They'll do their 7 mitzvahs, we'll do our mitzvahs. How about 35? Any familiar to anybody?
Something about being happy.
Good. Okay. Hot. You're getting hot.
During the days.
Oh, we're getting really hot. Playing hot and cold. All we need to know is one word, Yehovchu.
Is it opposite?
It's like they turned upside
Turn
down or
over.
something like
What'll
that.
be turned upside down?
The world?
Just how young being had that's like these days.
The days. Which days? It's referring to the days of fasting. The days I just mentioned. Tisha B'Av, Shavasa B'Tammuz, Sarah B'Teves. What's the 4th one? Is Tzom Gedalia. These days, which are days of crying and mourning, will not only not be crying and mourning, it'll actually be Yom Tovim, which we'll celebrate. It's a pasuk in Tanakh, and it specifically mentions each fast day, not by the name, but by the month. The fast day of this month, the fast day of that month, because in the Torah, in the books of the prophets, the months don't have names. They all go by number. Number 33. Let's try like you did before. Kvod Hashem, what does that mean?
Revealed honor.
Oh, okay, so what does that mean?
Honor?
Right. That when Mashiach comes, Hashem's honor, Hashem's glory will be revealed in the world. Remember, we explained that there'll be a long line of wonderful, amazing, good things that'll happen, but all the things are a result of one change. And what's the change? That now Hashem is concealed, and then Hashem will be revealed. Okay. Number 48. Malchus Beis David. The kingdom of the house of David. In other words, yes, it's referring to Moshiach, but it means that Moshiach will be a king, but it'll be a continuation of the royal dynasty of King David. Remember, we explained there were other kings that were not from King David's family. They were from the other tribes. Also, Hanukkah times, there were kings called Chashmonaim from a different family altogether. They were Kohanim. But when Mashiach comes, he will be the one who will sort of continue the kingdom of King David. Number 47, Mashiach ben Yosef. Mashiach, the son of Yosef. What is that? Right. So this is a very mysterious kind of subject. There's nothing clear about it. One thing that is clear, it's not in halacha, which means even though it says in certain sources that before Mashiach comes, who is the descendant of King David, there'll be another person called Mashiach, and he'll be a descendant of Joseph, from the tribe of Joseph. Remember, the two groups that the Jews were split in, one was kings from the house of David, and the other was from the house of Joseph. So Mashiach comes, and only be one. However, there will be someone who will be descendant from one of Joseph's children, and he will also accomplish certain things, but he will eventually, that's what it says, he'll eventually be killed, and then will come Mashiach, who's a descendant of King David. So some people say that it's not literal, some people say that it's something spiritual, some people say it's halacha. It's a fact, it's an actual thing that has to happen. But definitely, if you look at the Rambam, there's no mention at all, which obviously means it's not a prerequisite. Yeah.
You were saying like the person who like is descending from Yosef, like are you saying like he will come as Mashiach, but then he won't be the Mashiach will be held?
So obviously not only coming as Mashiach, but it will do certain functions, certain things that he will accomplish, which will be like clearing the way or preparing the way for Mashiach. Right.
Because this is like the concept that a lot of Christians use for Yashya, because his father's name is like Yosef.
Right.
A lot of people will use this to say that he's Mashiach.
Right. The only problem is that Mashiach has to be a tzaddik. And tzaddik means to do what Hashem wants and not the opposite. So
I thought the tribes of Menashe and Ephraim were lost.
right. But apparently some of them probably found their way around. In other words, the majority of Jews today are definitely either from Binyamin or Yehuda. But apparently it could be that some are from, I mean, there's an opinion that the Jews in Ethiopia are descendants from those 10 tribes. I'm talking about an authority of Torah opinion. Yeah.
And there's also a possibility that like people who convert today probably might be from somewhere as well.
That's definitely a possibility that they sort of intermingled, they got lost, and there's something today that's pushing them in that direction because they're descendants. But we don't know.
Why wouldn't their moms also be?
Because they assimilated and they maybe married someone who wasn't Jewish.
No, I'm saying like if a person converts, you also assume that if the mom wants to convert, because she also wants to convert, you know what I mean? Like if the person who converts, they're really coming from a Jewish.
Right, so it depends.
That the mom is
Sometimes it's a situation where they're actually halachically Jewish, but they don't know it and they can't prove it. But sometimes the situation that they have sort of a Jewish lineage in them because of their father, which halacha doesn't make them Jewish, but there's some connection there, and that could be what's influencing that. We had a student here that after she converted, she went home for the first time back for Shabbos. She lived somewhere in the Midwest. And comes Friday night, she lights the candles. And her grandmother, which is her mother's mother, says, "Oh, my mother used to do that." She said, "What?" That's the good news. The bad news is the grandmother said, "Nothing. What did you just say?" "I don't want to talk about it." And that was it. She just closed her mouth, would not talk about it again. I remember she wrote to the Rebbe, asking the Rebbe, should I pursue it or not? Because it was getting a little bit painful. The parents didn't want to talk. And the Rebbe told her to speak to the Rebbe of the community at the time. And he suggested, drop it. You're Jewish. You're 100% Jewish now. Don't worry about it. It'll just cause aggravation, family conflict. Forget it. But that's what happens. And my mother used to do that. There are a lot that came from Portugal or Spain or these countries. They were first, practicing Judaism in a hidden way, but then then they sort of got lost. But the family kept certain things. They don't know why, but that's what my mother used to do. Number 44. Number 44, we did have that in the class. I didn't check it off. The words mean tzipisa liyeshua. It's really supposed to be with a question mark. Did you anticipate Mashiach's coming? And that is that the Gemara says that when a person leaves this world and comes before the heavenly court, one of the first questions they're going to ask them, were you looking forward for Mashiach to come? That's how important it is. Now, there are a few things that never got to make it on this list. So for next year, I'll put it on. But here are the things that are not on this list, which none of you have. So I'll give it to you now. Let me see if I have enough. I should have enough copies. It's great. A lot of strange things happen here every time. I forget this, I forget that. I don't know why I don't have it. I thought I made copies. I see I only have one copy. No. This is. I only have one copy here. Surprised. Okay. Oh, I gave it to you last time. Oh, this one, yeah. Good, so let's cover it now. Okay. So whoever doesn't have it, you'll just look in with someone. Whoever doesn't have, those of you that who did I give a new copy to? I gave you, if you can give that back to me. You wrote over, not a problem. But this packet has the last page as well. Take this packet. Maria, you also have an extra packet here. You can take the last packet. This is the whole packet all over again, but with the last page. Okay, so the word is interesting because one of the on this list, number 7. Remember those words? Higia zman gulaschem. Anyone remember what that means? Higia means zman gulaschem, the time to redemption. Higia has arrived. Number 7. This is when the whole campaign sort of took off on a whole new level, when the Persian Gulf crisis began. And the Rebbe quoted a medrash that describes a global conflict, which will be around this spot, the Persian Gulf. And Hashem will send a message to the Jewish people, don't panic, what's happening is for your good, the time of redemption has arrived. Yesterday, I was listening to a recording of Netanyahu. He's speaking, he spoke very well. And then he says, and I have a message for the Iranian people. The time of redemption is near. I'm thinking, I said, Netanyahu, he was basically saying our war is not against the people of Iran, it's against the dictators of Iran, those who are, but the people, we would like to bring you freedom, and hopefully this will bring you freedom. Okay, so connected to that is number 57. But 57 is a little bit different. 57, Imdu Hachen Kulchem. This is a quote that the Rebbe quoted over and over and over, which means stand ready for what? So 57, 58 go together. The Kabul Pnei Mashiach Sidkenu. The time has come that we did everything already to be deserving of Mashiach. Now we have to stand ready to receive Mashiach. And part of that is number 59, Kabbalas HaMalchus, which means we have to be ready to accept Mashiach as our king. And that's also number 60 means, so Kabbalas HaMalchus means accepting Mashiach kingdom, and Achtaras HaMelech means a crowning or the coronation of a king. In this context, it's Mashiach. Number 61 is Yiddish, polishing the buttons. Anyone remember what that is?
Yeah, but now we just like basically Moshiach, like what Moshiach is almost here, but we just need to.
Right. So this is a metaphor that the previous Rebbe used, and he said everything is all set. The uniform is on. It's all clean. It's ready to go. The buttons are there. There's nothing missing. All we have to do is just a little bit of polishing the buttons to make it's a metaphor to say that we're ready. Just a little something has to be done. And the Rebbe told us that the buttons have been polished already. And if you polish them too much, they're going to tarnish. It's not a good idea. So Mashiach has to come. Number 62, Kolu Kol HaKitzim. This means that there are dates that were set aside, that this is the time that Mashiach would come. This is the time that Mashiach would come. That's the time Mashiach would come. So the Gemara says that all those dates have already passed, which means now it's no longer that we're waiting for a time or a date, but now it's just depending on the tshuva. That's in the times of the Gemara. And today we're saying that even tshuva has been done already and we're deserving of Mashiach. Number 63, do you remember, this is something we did recently, Tikkun Chatzos. Chatzos means midnight.
And they wake up, isn't it the prayer? And they wake up and ask for
Mashiach. Right, years ago, it was very common, people would wake up at night after midnight and sit on the floor like on Tisha B'Av and say special prayers asking Hashem to end the Golus and bring Mashiach. Number 64, B'schus Noshem Tzidkonius.
merit of the righteous woman.
What?
We will be taken out of
Right. In the merit of the righteous woman, we were taken out of Mitzrayim, and in the merit of the righteous women, we'll be taken out of this Golus. That women have the power, in this sense, more than anyone else, to bring Mashiach. 65, Mashiach Sameach. That we didn't do very long ago. Sameach. Right, we had this whole class on Mashiach and Simcha go together. Right, but one of the things that brings Mashiach is Simcha. 66, La'alta L'tshuva, La'alta L'gula. What? Right, this was the slogan that the previous Rebbe started in 1941 during the war, World War II. We said, La'alta L'tshuva, La'alta L'gula. We do tshuva immediately, we'll have geula immediately. Okay, so let's get ready for more and more miracles. But again, on the other hand, in order for the miracles to happen, and I'm sure they're all happening as a result of everything that Yidden are doing all over the world. The Torah they're studying, the mitzvahs they're doing, the tzedakah that they're giving, the tillim that everybody says, not just us, but the whole world is saying tillim. All these things are bringing Hashem's miracles. And we need them now more than ever, that whatever they started, this project should be done till the end. I mean, it's not a joke. I mean, what happened is so miraculous. Someone sent me this, I guess it's a cartoon of the head of Iran, Khomeini, sitting by a table and saying, what are we doing to retaliate against Israel? It's a big table with many chairs and all the chairs are empty. He's the only one sitting there because his whole top is gone. So Hashem should allow us to complete it, that there should be no more threats. not from them, and not from all their shluchim. Yeah. Yeah. Have a good Shabbos, everybody. Yes. Yes.
We have something for you.
Coffee?
Girls.
Good Shabbos, Rabbi Majeski.
This one
Thank you.
Basia made. So each girl got to make a mug for the teachers. This
Thank
one
you
here,
very much.
Basia made it. And that's a card. Thank you
very
so much. It's never been toggled.
This was not it.
Yes.
Okay.
Just so you know. Yes. And
Thank
that's
you
from
very much.
everyone. And thank you for.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
We have to thank you. I'll read it later. I don't want to start crying.
Thank you, Rabbi Majeski. Oh.
Wonderful. Yeah, we slept for one day.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
This is the class we were.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah, Basia made this one.
What?
Basia made this one.
You and Alice and Gabe. So-
Yeah, and everyone, from everyone. Oh, yes.
Yeah, I didn't get number 62. I didn't have number names. That's, oh, all the basic shifts coming in fast and now. That's what he said. Like, all these people thought the shift was gonna come, he was a big task, and now we just have to take it, but we can't.
Yeah.
Like, the door was not closed, no?
Uh,
Okay, continuing in history. This is our second to last class,
Yes.
right? Monday is the.
Yes.
Okay, so let's see how far we can get. We ended off with the sages of the Mishnah. Sages of the Mishnah lived at the time of the end. Excuse me. The time of the end of the second Beis Hamikdash, at the time where the Romans had conquered the Greeks, the Greek army, and they had begun the Roman Empire regime. And like we said, they were very instrumental in building up the infrastructure of the land of Israel. Sorry,
It's okay.
catching my breath. No.
You can take a minute.
So they were instrumental in building up the infrastructure in Israel and all the other countries that they were involved in. That was like their big thing, the construction. Right, and like we said last time, the second Beis Hamikdash